Many thanks, Joseph Olsen, for that backgrounder. With us in the studios now to discuss these issues, we would like to welcome the Honorable Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, Otumba Ni Adebayo. Honorable Minister, pleasure to have you again on Good Morning Nigeria.
Good morning. Thank you very much.
Also here with us in the studios, we would like to welcome a regular guest on the program, his President, National Association of Nigerian Traders, Dr. Ken Ukoha. Delighted to have you this morning.
Thank you very much, Kinsley. Good morning, Nigerians.
And joining us too in the studio here in Abuja is former Director General, Abuja Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Dr. Chijoke Ikechukwu. Thank you for joining us, Doctor.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure.
Thank you.
All right, gentlemen, once again, I'd like to have you join us for today's conversation. We've been focusing on various sectors of the economy and indeed of our national life in the 6 years of the Buhari administration. And today is the turn of MITI. The Honorable Minister, of course, hasn't always been minister for 6 years. He's been minister for around about 2 years. And before him was Enelama, who also was frequently a guest on Good Morning Nigeria. But regardless, Honorable Minister, as the saying goes, government is a continuum. So you took over the baton from your predecessor. But what are those milestones that you can point to in terms of what we are now seeing as the face of industry, trade and investment in the country?
Well, the major thing really has been the backward integration program of this administration. This administration is keen to see to it that we are self-sufficient in certain agro products, for instance, sugar, palm oil, cassava, and also in the automobile sector and in the cotton, textile, and garment sector. So those are areas in which the government has been putting a lot of emphasis to see to it that we are self-sufficient. The whole idea is for Nigeria not to be an importer of these things, but a net producer and exporter of these items that I've mentioned in these various sectors.
So, I mean, yes, the critical focus is backward integration, but what have been the primary drivers of this backward integration idea?
Well, the whole idea is, for instance, with sugar, where a lot of effort has gone into it, the whole idea is to have a situation whereby, as at today, Nigeria imports the sugar it eats. And the importation of sugar that we do today is the raw sugar is imported. We have refineries that refine the raw sugar. What we have done is we have encouraged those who do the refining of that sugar to go to the land and plant the sugar cane, which will now be used to process for the final product. So, and we have put in place processes and regulations that will assist them. We have government is assisting them with even with what do you call it, the irrigation of the land. Government has made funds available for them to enable them irrigate the land. Government has been the federal government, in conjunction with various state governments, for instance, Nasarawa state government, Adamawa state government, Kwara state government, and Niger state government. The federal government has been cooperating with the state governments so that the state governments will make land available for these companies to be able to have access to the land so that they can plant the raw sugar cane, which will now be crushed and used in the refineries for the production of the final product, which is the sugar.
Congratulations. What can you say about cassava, therefore, in this regard?
Cassava, we're also working in that direction as well, because, you know, cassava is something that is readily available in this country. So we are working with a few of the companies and the state governments. The same way we're working with them on the sugar project, the same way we're working with them on the cassava with a view to processing of cassava. Because the whole idea is that not only do we want to be self-sufficient for what we require here, these are specific areas that we have comparative advantage so that we can also export, especially now in view of the African Continental Free Trade Area agreement that we have signed into. The whole idea is we need to be able to export our products so that it will take us away from our one export product, which is oil. We need to export other products so that we can make the country can garner foreign exchange for its other uses.
I was just wondering, I mean, in recent years, one of the commonest phrases is ease of doing business. Ease of doing business. Wherever you turn, ease of doing business. Of course, together with the executive order that was signed to fast track that. Is it any easier now, by your assessment, to do business in Nigeria? And if so, what has been, again, the primary sources of this achievement?
Well, it is easier to do business. It's a difficult thing. It has not been easy to get into where we are. As was stated in the promo that was aired, we have done better than we have done in the past, but it's a work in progress. We continue to work hard at it. We have a target. We are right now, the target that we have is we want to be at number 70 by 2023 on the World Bank Index. We know it is a hard slog. We have some ways to go, but we are working hard at it. We are engaged with the state governments to make access to land easier. We are engaged with them on the issues of double taxation, the various taxations, or multiple taxations that exist in some of the states. We are engaged with our own agencies, for instance, the Corporate Affairs Commission and the Federal Inland Revenue. So we're working with all these agencies with a view to seeing to it that life is made easier for businessmen, so that businessmen can come in, engage, do their businesses, make their money, and make progress. The more, like I always say to businessmen, it is the duty of our ministry and the duty of government to make them succeed, because when they succeed, government succeeds. If companies make money, government makes money because we're able to tax them. So I always advocate and I always make them feel comfortable to let them know that we are here to assist them to make money, and that is why we have to make sure that we make it easy for them to invest and run their businesses here in Nigeria.
Well, thank you, Honorable Minister. Let's hear the views of our other guests on this very topic so that we can now have a good background as to where we are coming from. Let me start with Dr. Ken Ukoho. 6 years down the line, Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment. So far, however, what's your assessment? How good have these promises made earlier on in 2015? How good were they kept? And then how far have we gone in trying to see to it that the industry moves on and takes Nigeria out of the woods?
Thank you very much. I think I would want to ride on the back of the Honourable Minister and maybe perhaps start from where he dropped the button. And in this direction, I would
if you drop the
love
button,
to.
The race is over. That's what
He's dropping it into my hands. And I'm continuing. Yeah. Thank you very much. So I think that with regard to ease of doing business, we have covered some mileage. I'm speaking this way because 3 days back, I registered a company under 48 hours, and it was shocking. With CAC. It was quite shocking, and courtesy of the
Sorry, maybe the word you want to use is surprising, because shocking would
that's a graduated level of surprise.
It was a pleasant
honestly,
surprise.
very pleasant, honestly.
Thank you.
Because the Company and Allied Matters Act that was reviewed and enacted, courtesy of some of the sections there. For instance, you have section 861, which now permits electronic transfer of documents, recognizes such. And, with that, you can, on the press of a button in your house, in your room, and then register your company. That's a progress. That's very, very, strategic. But let me also draw back to one subject matter which I have always enjoyed, because everywhere we go, within the continent, people ask, especially private sector, how did you succeed in doing this? And that's the subject matter of the AFCFTA, the African Continental Free Trade, that we were able to draw government to sit down with us, listen to our own narrative, And then the president said, look, we are not going to do business as usual. We're not going to close our eyes and sign on any kind of dotted lines or any agreement. We will sit down with the private sector, do impact analysis for the very first time in the history of this country. I mean, maybe since I was, perhaps since I knew what the country is. And of course, we sat down and, looked at the impact, did some studies that showed the clear narrative, the clear direction, what we should do, what we should not do, and then the gaps as well as the booby traps that we need to avoid. And with that, we were able to go into the negotiations with a sane mind, contrary to what was happening before. And I also need to give kudos to the Honorable Minister, not because he's here, because I have tried to look at statistics of agreements signed by Nigeria by previous ministers. And I've seen that this is a regime where we have seen few agreements signed. You know why? Because in the years past, you see, a minister will go out and sign a BIT, bilateral investment treaty, and all of that, bilateral agreements with another country, and then comes back. Before we know, we have seen an agreement on the table. And there were proliferation of agreements of all sorts, protecting investments of others, and never thinking that we had no investments in such countries. So a kind of lopsided thing. And I think that this is kudos also. One other area is that, talking about the AFCFTA again, we have driven to a point where the government sat down, seriously consulted with the private sector, understanding that it is the private sector that has the agreement to implement and not for the government. And this is where you see organizations like Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, NASIMA, NASME, NASI, NANS, all of us come together to say, look, we need to sit down and now have a checklist and tick which one has been done, which one has not been done. Everybody is sitting on the table and monitoring. Through the National Action Committee that was set up by by the president, which took over from the Impact Analysis Committee, and all other private sectors in every other country. In fact, this is the only country, except South Africa, which learned from us, the only country in the whole of 54 countries of Africa that signed the AFCFTA, where the private and the public sector sat down to look at things thoroughly. Now, one other area that I think we have done well is in the area of infrastructure, trade infrastructure particularly. Today we see rails here and there. We are saddled with insecurity, which has delayed quite a lot of things that ought to have ought to have gone well with the sector and with the government and the economy of the country. However, the placement of this infrastructure has also contributed immensely to ease of doing business. And I give you an instance. Previously, it took about 1.35 million to move a container from Apapa Wharf to Kano. But today, because there is the rail, transporters, haulage, sector practitioners are now understanding that the rail is taking some business out. And today you can find that I was so surprised that, about 750,000 is moving a truck. Even in the midst of insecurity, moving a truck to Kano from, Apapa. And that's kudos. And I think when all of these chains are completed, we're going to be making, breaking evens. Perhaps I will stop with one more point, which is the issue of the facilities created by government to the traders, trader money, market money, and then the COVID Survivor Fund. These are well-placed, facilities that have helped the economy. When the economy has gone into recession 2 times, all of these little things, little facilities, little instruments created by government have also been able to show up the economy and then brought us out of the woods. It is not as if we have gotten to our El Dorado. Let nobody misunderstand this. This is a journey. There are a few things that I will also say that, becomes agenda for the administration for the 2 years remaining for this administration. For instance, the issue of security. Maybe we'll talk about that. Thank you very much.
Just hold it in the meantime.
We'll come to that.
Dr. Ken Ukoha, thank you very much for your intervention. Let's bring in now Dr. Chijioke Ikechukwu, former Director General of the Abuja Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Tell us, do you see substance in what has been achieved through the Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment in 6 years? And if so, what are the hallmarks?
I can tell you, taking from what the Honorable Minister said, is a work in progress. A lot is being expected, actually, in the country, and a lot also has been achieved. I can tell you, he also touched a few of the items that we haven't gotten the solutions we've been expecting. And that issue has actually been mentioned every time we discuss problems incurred in doing business in Nigeria. The major one is the multiple taxation, which he mentioned. And I can tell you, this topic has always existed for many years, and we haven't had solutions to this. Because it is work in progress, I expect also that the various parties to this particular solution must come together, because we've confronted the FIRS. Of course, they said their taxes are already known. Of course, states will always come with theirs, and the local government councils will come with theirs. So that is what's one area I expect a concerted effort to be made, so that the cry that business people have been crying for many years will at least have a solution, and have a very particular solution, so that that will be put aside once and for all. We need to solve that problem, because that is just one problem that is disturbing and distorting businesses of MSMEs and, in fact, businesses of Nigerians. Having said that, I can tell you a lot has happened in the areas of agriculture, which every Nigerian can attest to. We are all beneficiaries of all these engagements and improvements that have taken place in the agriculture sector. A lot can still be done, honestly, because we have competitive advantage over many countries in so many agricultural productions. And so we need to increase our production capacity of all these areas so that we have enough to export, in order for us to bridge a little the gap that exists between our imports and exports, which is so wide right now. So we usually say that you cannot give what you don't have. If we don't have enough production capacity, we will not have enough to export. Right now, a lot has to be done in local manufacturing in order for us to have enough to send out of the country. Of course, when we do that, the pressure on our foreign reserves and pressure on our foreign currency will just reduce. And so we expect that if agriculture sector is taking its own turn, we also expect that we're going to have certain developments and growth in manufacturing sector, which also is one sector that needs to have more and more attention. We are still growing, and we can still do better than what we're doing right now in the manufacturing sector. Honestly, that is also one sector that can create a lot of jobs for Nigeria, for Nigerians, and we need to use that particular sector to grow the economy. I know it takes a whole lot, but that's one sector we can do well. Having said, talked about ease of doing business, I also expect that we can improve on what we are doing. Of course, it's far beyond the registration of companies, and also there are many other areas. We all, in doing business in that regard, we also know that Certain other areas in land acquisitions and land ownerships have not been perfected. We also know that the areas of certain corrupt practices here and there have not been perfected. And so, like he said, it's a work in progress. And we expect that if all hands are on deck, we are going to have certain improvements in various sectors of the economy.
Dr. Chijioke, thank you so much. But I want you really to hang a little bit on with you and then see how we'll be able to get some more light on some of the issues you raised. When you talked about multiple taxation, you were referring to, taxes being, not too heavy really, but too many on, on traders and businessmen and manufacturers and the rest of them.
That's right.
You also talked about the MSMEs who really moved a little bit away from where they used to be, but really not reaching where they're supposed to reach. Can you be a little bit specific here in trying to tell Nigerians what really are there for these areas to, move forward? Be specific in the sense of trying to tell them that these and these and these areas are where we want the ministry and the government to come in.
Okay. I want a situation where the ministry will meet with the states, to engage with the states and, in fact, with the local government people. You see, let's take an example with Abuja. In Abuja, if you're doing business, you are going to be paying company income tax, you are going to be paying payee. Those ones are given. Of course, VAT and withholding tax and all those are given. And so FIRS will tell you those are the few that they have. Now you leave the federal, you'll be receiving certain demand notices that will come in the form of business premises permit, tenement rate, environmental, a good number of them, I can tell you. Now, you leave the state, you also get certain conflicts. Sometimes you receive demand notice from FCT, and AMAC will bring their own demand notice on the same areas. And they will quote certain laws to say, we are supposed to collect, we are supposed to collect. You would have paid to FCT, and AMAC will come. And so there are many of such. I can tell you, if you ask 100 business people today, especially MSMEs, they will tell you that is the greatest problem they have. So if we are able to solve this problem, the businesses in Nigeria will just continue to grow gradually, because that is actually, many people I know have shut down their business because of the disturbances they have had from these various tax agencies. So what we need to have is one table where the agents of federal government will come, agents of FIRS will come, the state and the local government. If we deal with the federal, that is Abuja and Lagos especially also, you see that the government now, being one body, will identify the various taxes that will be allowable for businesses to pay in Nigeria. And so when we have those, we are not going to anymore call it multiple taxation, because we have continued to talk about this for many years, and we need to get it resolved. Now that the minister is with us, we need to get it resolved, so that these parties will just come together and identify, and government will just say, whether your local government or your state, these are the only taxes that you are allowed to pay, and that will just help businesses in Nigeria.
Okay, just before we bring in the Honorable Minister to respond to this critical issue arising from the need to further ease the strictures in doing business in the country. Ken Okoha, of course, your members also sometimes bear the brunt of this multiple taxation issue that Chijioke is talking about. Very briefly.
Not sometimes. They are the brunt bearers. They carry the load. But I think, the fact remains very clear. We have shouted over this matter. It's a drawback of the ease of doing business. And I think that what the government needs to do, I think it goes beyond the ministry. This is the government. And I also look at it as a constitutional matter. If you look at the 5th schedule of the 1999 Constitution as amended, the power of the local government covers some of these tax collections. Now, for instance, you have the radio tax. You have the market tax. You have some of them environmental tax. And then you now see from one local government to another, you see different uniforms of people who are coming with their nails on wood, and then throwing on the road. Cutting short your business. Sometimes they destroy your ways. Other times they look like vagabonds, and then distract everything that you are doing. Even at the FCT, you've seen some of them with new uniforms and all of that. Now, is it not possible, just like we are applying the subject of VAT, where the FRS collects all of this, is it not possible for, all these taxes to be enumerated? You bring them together, and then one system collects in a harmonized manner, in a very clear, decent manner, so that every local government also will also be credited the same way VAT is being credited to states. And I think that's a good way.
All right, Dr. Kenukoha, thank you very much. Honorable Minister, let's bring you in here because, as I said, ease of doing business is one phrase that has been commonly used, and of course there are results indicating that things are going on well. But if those who are in business keep complaining about this, what can be done? I know there are issues relating to the Joint Tax Board, the Ministry of Finance, and so on and so forth. How can this issue be tackled?
Well, this is an issue that is actually being tackled. As you're aware, the President set up the Presidential Ease of Doing Business Environment Council, PEBEC. We have an Executive Secretary there, Dr. Jumoke Oduwole, and she has been coordinating, and she's put herself in line. She's been talking between the various governments, especially the state governments and the local governments. There are various programs where there has been discussions whereby we're trying to find a solution to these multiple taxation issues. We know it is a problem. It is a problem that we have identified, and it's a problem that we are tackling with a view to finding a solution to it. Like I said, we have engaged with the state governments and the local governments with a view, and we believe that at some point we will be able to find a solution to it. The good thing about this particular administration is that we actually engage, like Dr. Ken has stated earlier, we engage with the practitioners. We are in government for people. Government is about what people want. If you don't talk to people to know what they want, you don't know what to do. So we have engaged with them. We talk to them. We try to find out what their problems are with a view to finding solutions to these problems. And we are hopeful that at the end of the day, we will find a solution to this particular issue because it is one that is affecting even our rating on the Ease of Doing Business Index. So it is something that we are desperate to find a solution to.
Well, it's a work in progress, you said. I think, Dr. Chijioke, the doors are open now. The government is working on that. The issues are so many. I don't know whether you could still advise on that. Maybe they could just add some inputs to the minister and then maybe forward it to Nigerians and to those concerned about this multiple taxation thing, at least before we close the chapter on that.
Yes. Anyway, we want to be very hopeful, very, very hopeful that all the efforts are going to give us the solution once and for all. Honestly, for people who do business, I could hear their cries every day. I could feel it. I could feel it also. And like the Honorable Minister said, if only this, even for now, can be resolved, Nigerians are going to celebrate him and going to celebrate the federal government. So we need to, if there are issues regarding certain contributions in terms of inputs, we're also very ready to make same to them. But otherwise, I can tell you, it is possible that they also have the solutions. Most of the issues are really coming from the local government councils and the states. So if we work very well from the federal level and we're not engaging the states, we may not be finding the solution. So it will actually involve the engagement of all the state governments and all, probably the local government areas, so that at that particular gathering or the gatherings they're going to have, they will have certain decisions and probably document them and gazette them, and then we know the way forward. Otherwise, I think that would be a very major thing to be achieved.
Okay. Yes. Dr. Chijioke, thank you very much. Let's bring in again the Honorable Minister of MITI. In terms of perception, sometimes you read and hear about divestment, relocation, shutdown of businesses in Nigeria, and then moving on to neighboring countries. And at the same time, you keep hearing stories about foreign direct investment and even local direct investment in our economy. But it turns out that the more vociferous voices tend to be those that focus on, say, oh, so-and-so business has chosen a neighboring country where to locate to. So-and-so business has shut down because of the challenges of doing business. What is the real story? Are we a net destination now of investment, or are we still losing potential investors to our neighbors and indeed elsewhere around the world?
When I hear these stories, I'm always amused because it actually made me go to even check some records, and it was brought to my attention that I think since 2016, Nigeria has netted, I think, about $23 billion in foreign investment since 2016. Sorry? 23.9 exactly billion dollars, and there was an increase from 2016 to 2017, an increase from 2017 to 2018, 18 to 19. Because of COVID, there was a drop. It dropped a bit, but now that COVID is over, that we're seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, we believe that things will pick up again. You know, there's been a lot, people hype Ghana a lot. They say, oh, industries are moving to Ghana, and I'm always amused. You see, last night I was in a conversation with some people, and we had this debate, and I pointed out to them, I said, you can compare, and I mean no disrespect to Ghana, by the way, no disrespect whatsoever, but the economy of Ghana is not even as big as the economy of Lagos, which is just a state in Nigeria. So, I mean, I don't see that competition, you know. One thing I have noticed from going around this country is that we Nigerians do not realize the extent of the size of this country. We don't. I have been to places, I have seen companies, I have seen industries, and I have opened my mouth, I've marveled in amazement at the extent of what we have in this country. And I think, you know, this idea of running our country down, I think we have to stop it, really. We have to celebrate what we have. We have to be proud of what we have. Yes, it may not be on the level of the Western world or the Americas and all these greatly industrialized countries, but we are working towards those targets. We will get there, without a doubt. Nigerians are very entrepreneurial people, and that is why this government is doing everything possible to assist to make sure that all our MSMEs are able to achieve the targets that they have set for themselves. Government has come up with various schemes that has been pointed out. The central bank is pumping money into the system. All sorts of schemes are being worked out to ensure that our MSMEs are well funded. Every day we try to come up with ways and means by which we can assist them. As of today, we're in talks with the African Development Bank to set up special agro-processing zones all over the country. They have been talking to the various state governments. The whole idea is to have special agro-processing zones in all the states of the Federation. I was in discussions with, they sent a team to Nigeria, I think about 2-3 weeks ago, and in our discussions, I noticed that part of the program that they have for this special agro-processing zone is to enable them, have them located near the railway tracks that are being developed in the country as at now, so that there will be a means of moving the produce or whatever is produced within the processing zones to the ports for export. You know, so a lot is going on, and you know, so Nigerians should not despair. There is hope. We will get to where we need to get to, because government recognizes the fact that there are problems, and we are facing those problems headlong with a view to finding solutions.
Indeed, my colleague Nadabo, we have had on Good Morning Nigeria from time to time Chief Eric Umelfia, who is a very well-known industrialist, and he says on the program that some of the things that people complain about the most, say power, he said that's not his issue. That as an investor, he knows that that is a challenge that he has to face, and so he provides for it, and then goes ahead, with his manufacturing and so on and so forth. But complaints, of course, about apparent dumping of goods from particularly Asian countries. But is it also the case? Because when you hear about the wide variety of interventions, either by the central bank or through some of its subsidiaries, we should say, whether Bank of Industry, Agriculture, and so on and so forth. And some of the products we are beginning to see in the market, even agro-processed items, we're asking ourselves, are we not informing ourselves sufficiently as to what is really happening? Because people get busy, as you said, when you visit some parts of the country and you see what is being churned out, you marvel. Are we not doing enough to ventilate these issues and make people aware that indeed there are opportunities, and despite the challenges, people are putting their money in the country?
Well, I think, unfortunately, what happened, because when I got into office, we had just come out of recession, there was an improvement in the economy, things were going on, and then, unfortunately, COVID happened. So COVID came and dampened everything. It was an emergency situation for us. At the time, we had to set up an emergency operations center. We had to see to it, because you have to remember that that crisis could have been worse. Because if people didn't have access to food, they didn't have access to beverages and things, because if all the companies shut down, which had happened, then we would have had a major problem. We set up an emergency operations center. We worked with the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria. We worked with NASIMA. We worked with all the various chambers of commerce with a view to seeing to it that we had the manufacturing sector continuing to churn, especially essential items, pharmaceuticals, food, drink, so that people could, even though people were under lockdown, people could still have access to food and drink. As we have started coming out of the COVID pandemic, there is also, we have come out of recession for the second time. There is an improvement. And I think as time goes along, I think that it was in here that this morning I heard that the World Bank is projecting that there will be a 1.8% increase in our GDP. So you can see that if things continue to improve along that way, then those who are the purveyors of negative news will probably desist from doing so. I find that negative news is easier and it moves faster and is more embraced by people than positive news. So because we are in a situation now, negative news seems to have the upper hand. But as time goes along, I think the positive news will overtake this negative news, and people begin to see and begin to appreciate what government is doing and the progress that we are making as a country.
And one of the positives is what you did yesterday by, presenting to the president the Made in Nigeria phone, which we have. At least we can now say it's our own, it's homegrown, it's homemade. It's what we can really boast of. And this is one out of so many efforts as we've been having in this country. I don't know, this is a big feat. And there are so many other Nigerians who are really innovative in this regard. Looking at developments over the past few years and how Nigerians have been trying to come up with one thing or the other. How favorable has the condition been for Nigerians, especially those who produce this phone, in order to get it out? And then what words of encouragement do you have for those in the queue with some items like this or much more than that?
Thank you very much. Yes, it was a thing of pride for me yesterday to be able to present this Made in Nigeria mobile phone to Mr. President. In December 2020, last year, we held our National Council on Industry meeting. And at that meeting, the Director General of the Industrial Training Fund approached me, and we launched this phone officially there. And they told us at the council that the Skills Acquisition Center had come up with this phone, And I asked, first question I asked, I said, was it in conjunction with any foreign body? They said no, that all the parts that they used to make this phone were locally sourced. So that for me was a thing of pride. So they gave me a few samples, and I had the honor of presenting it to Mr. President yesterday, that this is a completely made in Nigeria mobile phone. So, and you know,
Android or is
it's
3310?
Android. It's an Android phone, and you know, it is.
Does it have? Is it Twitter enabled so that we disable it immediately?
No, it is not. This is one phone that is not Twitter enabled. It does not have the Twitter app on it. Right. But on a serious note, it is a thing of pride for me that our young people can get themselves together and come up with something like this. And these are the kind of things that we want to encourage. We are talking to the ITF. We're trying to see how it can be mass-produced, because these are just samples that they have come up with. So we're trying to see, and I would like to use this opportunity to encourage manufacturers who would be interested in partnering with the ITF to mass-produce these phone items. And
what is it called?
It's branded Honor by ITF Mobile. It's developed by the Model Skills Training Center in Abuja. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, that's great. Congratulations. I'm sure that, of course, if that's the first item rolling off from there will be subsequent products and, of course, subsequent improvement. But while we are still on the subject matter of the telephones, there are other ancillary issues. I want to first bring in Dr. Chijoke Ikechukwu, formerly of the Abuja Chamber of Commerce and Industry, which is to say, look, made in Nigeria, by Nigeria. What, in your opinion, are the impediments towards rapidly improving the consumer attraction and purchase of made in Nigeria? Because you have a range of products, not just the telephone now. Cars and vehicles are there, automobiles are there, food, clothing, and so on and so forth. What are those impediments, and how have we tried, in your view, to solve those impediments, and what should be done?
Yeah, before I respond, let me first of all also congratulate the Honorable Minister for this milestone. It's a major milestone in the affairs of Nigeria. I can tell you the first thing to make Nigerians embrace made in Nigerian products is just to change our mindsets and to change our value system. It starts by changing that mindset, the fact that we can believe in ourselves and believe in things that are manufactured here. And of course, making sure that the standards are put in place and are enforced. Once Nigerians are certain that they can get the right standards, I can tell you they will prefer to buy the made in Nigerian products. Of course, we all know that there are certain products today, when you go to the market, Nigerians will insist they are made in Nigeria. Things like cables. Right. If the cables are not made in Nigeria, nobody's going to buy them. And there are many other items also. In fact, we have a good number of shoe manufacturers today in Nigeria, and most of those products are very solid. So once we are sure that the standards are going to be good, and then the mindset is changed and the value system is changed, then government also has a lot to do. Government will have to set examples by ensuring that if we are talking about vehicles to be used, then the made in Nigerian vehicles have to be put on the road. If we're talking about the clothing for the security men, then made in Nigerian products will be used for those uniforms and things like that. So once that pedestal is set, of course, we're believing that Nigerians will just follow. And so it is thought that Nigerians are all embracing made in Nigeria, and the air is all about made in Nigeria. And I can tell you, we want to be proud of what belongs to us. And so once we're able to turn around that mindset, we are going to really have made in Nigeria products. Honestly, we can do far, far better. If you look at the kind of wares we wear today, I can't remember when I wore any foreign-made clothing. And so these are the things we're talking about. People are beginning to appreciate the products we have just because of the quality of what we are doing. And then ingenuity of the people manufacturing all these things it's also there. So we have to continue to believe in ourselves and then to change our mindset. That way, we'll continue to patronize many Nigerian products.
Honorable Minister, you are itching to respond.
Yes, I just want to weigh in on what he just said. As a means of seeing that we have proper quality being churned out from our industries, the country in the last couple of months approved the National Quality Policy. We came up with a policy that provides for quality in the products of Nigerian products. The whole idea is to make sure that we have standards that are kept, especially for our exports, right? As at today, many of our exports have quality problems. You export your goods, they get to the destination, and they're rejected. You lose money. But now, with this quality policy that we have come up with, by the time you export your goods and they meet the qualities that we have set, the standards that we have set, you will not have that problem. So these are the kind of things that we are doing. And he touched on Nigerian wares, right? I was in Ghana recently for a meeting, and I was talking to the minister and the officials, my colleague, the Minister of Trade there, and other officials, and they were telling us that, a lot of the clothes that they are wearing in Ghana now are made by Nigerian tailors.
That's right.
The Secretary of the African Continental Free Trade Area, when I went to visit him in his office, was wearing Nigerian two-piece outfit. So, we
like all of us.
Like all of us, exactly. You see?
With the exception of Nada, okay, you don't have your parachute.
So we are exporting to the rest of Africa the things that we produce here, the things that we wear. It's just that we should ramp it up the more so that, Nigeria is the largest population in Africa. So the influence that we have, we should show it not only by way of the number of people we have, but also by what we produce. Let Africa eat and drink, wear what we produce here in Nigeria.
Oh, many thanks, Honorable Minister. Okoha, we shall be talking about this much more, but we'll now take a break. And when we come back, we look at that issue very much and then see how huge or how big Nigeria is, the population. And then recently, or was it yesterday, I think Nigeria's status rose up to be the richest in Africa or thereabout. I could share that. And there are so many issues on that. So we'll talk about that when we come back from the break. You're watching Good Morning Nigeria. We're reaching you from the NTA. We'll now take a break. Stay back for more. And truly, of course, the eyes will have it here because we're waiting for this phone to come out. We're really going to patronize it as much as we can. Minister, we're waiting for that. Ukoha, let's talk about the size of this country and looking at how rich we are, looking at the initiatives and the inventions we have, and the business environment in which you really had. This is one of the articles we have, and there are so many like that. And if we are really going to really talk about figures, over 200 million people are here in this country, and that is how big we are, and that is how respected we are in the world, in the economic world. Now, tell us, do you see these innovations playing out to take Nigeria to the next level in the, in trying to see to it that we join the mainstream of developed countries with these innovations, especially things like the phone and the rest of them?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think that one of the things that have kept us down for long is the issue of patronage, and I'm going to talk about that. Take, for instance, the automobile sector. The auto sector has developed in this country, but has been patronized, albeit in a very low manner. Now, and my colleague also talked about, sectors like the garment and footwear, where I belong. And that sector is one that is making I think with the analysis we did about 2 months ago, the garment and the leather sector of the economy, Nigeria's population is only being satisfied by our local industries 9% only. 9%. So you can see about 91% huge gap, yawning. And just like the Honorable Minister said, when you put on Nigeria, wear and leave these shores, everybody begins to admire you. Everybody begins to admire you. We had a meeting, and I think the Honorable Minister would speak about that. I've been thinking that he was going to talk about our delegation to Ghana. I don't have the permission to do that, but he would. But we went in, and there was something that happened. We have been quarreling and fighting with the Ghana Union of Traders for a long time. But there was a magic. We came to a negotiation table. I was putting on white cap, white up and down, and white slippers. And he was also putting on white and white, sitting the other way. I was sitting that way. So I think that at the point when the negotiations were coming down to, some kind of agreement, somebody, I don't know whether it was the Honorable Minister that realized and said that these two people that have been fighting have something in common. We are putting on white, and I looked at myself and I looked at him. This is true. And he laughed at that end. I also laughed. And then eventually, just to cut the whole story short, when we came for, after the end, we came for a good photograph. So he now said, look, that my white is better, it's Nigeria's own. Please, I should get him some of these whites when we reconcile. And, that took us to the dinner table. But then, I need to say this. If the innocence of this world will be patronized by the Nigerian government, by every ministry, by the state governments, I don't think that we'll be shouting for unemployment. That's one. Two, if you look at, and I've said this here severally, if you look at the yawning gap, the massive importation of garments and footwear for our military, for our school children, and all of that, from Asian tiger of this world, you'll be marveled. I think that one of the things that we need to do is that kind of patronage. And I also want to say, using this opportunity, to talk to the people who are marketing government policies. There must be a department strategically placed for this. You need to really market what we need. Aggressive marketing is what we need, so that we have that kind of. Aba, for instance, can produce anything. If you link Aba with Kano, where leather is produced, we are going to churn out massive industry.
Thank you very much. Because while we are still on this subject, because again we're getting pressed for time, Chijioke talked about changing our values, changing our orientation, without meaning any disparagement. Some persons would also argue that part of the reason is that for almost everyday items, we still have a number of items imported into the country. And these are your persons, it's your traders, whose chief item is container. You go to the wharf everywhere, container. Couldn't we also now begin to have containers of items that are produced in Aba and then marketed in different parts of the country? What can change that orientation? Sometimes the argument also goes, this is just a clear case of dumping, because we have good quality items in this country. As mentioned, cables, electric cables are there. Now you're having other building materials such as tiles and granite. What can be done? Is it just a question of business, and getting imports and then having quick turnaround?
Number one, Chijioke has talked about it, which is the issue of quality, and the Honorable Minister has talked about that, improving quality. Number two is that we have an opportunity created now beyond the 200 million population. We now have a 1.2 billion for Africa, where you have borderless zone for your business. It is, an attraction. Number three, is our policy outlook. And that's why I'm also talking about thinking that we need our trade policy that will show us where we are going, the kind of objective. Our trade policy has remained in a confused state to the point that, people think there is only one axis to trade, which is import. We have not designed a trade policy that looks at export. But one thing that COVID helped us to do? COVID helped us unwittingly to now look inwards. And many of those food items you saw on ShopRite and all of those malls before, coming in from South Africa and all other parts of the world, go back now, you will see innovations, yam, in more than 5-10 different models. You will see Gary. You will see, to the point that now they are being exported. These are things that many people do not know. Some of our members are now moving their money unwittingly into local production, local subsidy, because of what? They can no longer be guaranteed travel to go and buy import. So they have to invest their money now herein, because if you keep the money, you will eat and eat and eat and finish your capital. So they are, forced to invest money here. I have known many, over 31 people of our members, who have really said, I am no longer flying anywhere. I don't want to go and buy anything. Container, go. I am now producing. Right. And I can tell you this. So these are things that policies can also help to do what? Push them. Thank you.
Right. That's great. Let me
to the
let me
Honorable
just
Minister,
ask the Honorable Minister this. You raised some few issues here. The trade policy. Not only the trade policy. You mentioned specifically, if I may quote you right, if innocent motors can be patronized by Nigerians, all true, there's going to be a lot of employment opportunities that will be created. And when we look at the Executive Order 5 of Mr. President, why he mandated all ministries, boards, and parastatals, and ensure that, especially your ministry, to ensure that made in Nigeria goods are patronized. Put this together. Where does the ministry lie? How far have you gone so far?
That is actually the situation as of today. For procurement, everything that government needs has to be procured locally. It has to be manufactured by local manufacturers. And in fact, I've even had occasion lately to write to a few government enterprises that, especially with regards to the purchase of vehicles, that they should patronize. And I gave them the list of Nigerian vehicle manufacturers. So that, in fact, in another 2 or 3 weeks, I'm even going to Nnewi to commission a few new plants that Innocent has put up. So we are giving them encouragement, we are patronizing them, and we encourage others, even not only government, the private sector, to patronize these people because they are producing quality goods.
Trade policy?
Yes, on the trade policy, I am hopeful that before the end of this year, I will have a first-class document that I will be presenting to the Federal Executive Council for approval.
Okay, I'll stay with you, Honorable Minister. We know that there is a national industrialization master plan, and there are a number of items in that master plan. Of course, get power, get infrastructure in terms of roads and rail and all that. But I often wonder, because some of the things that we are seeking to do, it would appear that sometimes we are missing out on the bedrock. On the bedrock. We keep talking about value addition, value chain. Raw materials is a major source of drain on our foreign exchange. Because when you speak to manufacturers, and I'm sure Chijoke will confirm this, we are importing raw materials. And yet some of our agricultural produce are sources of these raw materials, whether from yam or cassava or otherwise. Then you ask yourself, where is the machinery to add value to these items? Then you then take off and go to the heavy-duty manufacturing sector, heavy-duty machines. Where are these heavy-duty machines produced? What happens to our steel industry? So how are we tying all of this up? Because, I mean, yeah, we're all wearing made in Nigeria outfits. Our tailors, have done all of this for us. But where are the machines produced? Where are the needles produced?
Trade.
Now, we have a problem with that. However, despite the fact that we have a problem, as you know, in the past, Ajaokuta was conceived to take care of this problem. But Ajaokuta has turned out to be a problem itself. However, there are some industrialists. I don't want to use your program to advertise people's companies, but there are some industrialists who have come into that space at a smaller level. There is a company that is doing something in Kaduna State, in Kaduna, just as you approach Kaduna from Abuja. There is a big complex coming up, a big steel complex coming up. They've identified a source of iron ore in that area, and they are going to start processing it. At the moment, they are doing steel rods locally because they're using waste metals and things that they fire up. They have a foundry here in Abuja. They have in Ogun State. So there is an improvement in things. People have identified these things, and people are addressing these problems. A lot has to do with the private sector. Government cannot do these things. If it was the private sector that was doing Ajaokuta at the time it was being conceived, I'm sure today it will be a different story. But unfortunately, the government at the time decided to do it as a government project, and that has become a problem. This administration recognizes the need for government to partner with the private sector. This administration has recognized that, and we are working in that direction. We believe that government should create an enabling environment for private sector to thrive, and that is what we're trying to do. We want to make things easy and encourage people. I've been meeting with different corporations from the different countries. We have a forum for British companies that operate in Nigeria, British manufacturers that operate in Nigeria. Like we have one with European countries, we have one with American companies, and the different sectors like that. And whenever we meet, I tell them, I am your ambassador. I am your advocate. I am here to work for you. What are your problems? You tell me your problems, and I will go out and see how I can solve your problems. If your problems are within my ministry, that is the easiest. Take that as solved. If your problem is with other ministries, I am prepared to approach my colleagues on your behalf to resolve these problems. And that is what we have been trying to do, so that see to it that we have an improvement.
Oh, thank you so very much, Honorable Minister, Industry, Trade and Investment, Otumba Nyadebayo. Thank you for being part of this program this morning.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Dr. Ken Okoha, President, National Association of Nigerian Traders, it's our pleasure you've been with us.
We appreciate
your contribution.
Thank you so much, as always.
And some also goes to Dr. Chijoke Ikechukwu, former Director General, Abuja Chamber of Commerce and Industry. It's our pleasure, sir.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure.
Well, thank you so much. And then let's now take sports before we round up.